It's 1991, and the Cold War yet starts heating up again. The Chinese Air Force is stuck with old J-7s and J-Air aircraft, which are basically knockoffs of the 50s Soviet jets. The PLAAF commander of that time goes to his higher-ups with a bold request to make a next-generation fighter aircraft, which is not copied, not imported, and built in China from scratch. Shockingly, he has been given the green light and 500 million yen to start the project off. Three different companies give designs. The first design was from Shenyang Aircraft Corporation, who gave a design inspired by the Japanese F-2 and the American F-16 Fighting Falcon, whereas Gao Aviation Industry Group gave basically a knockoff design of the aging Soviet MiG-23 aircraft. But the one that got the spotlight was from Chengdu Aircraft Corporation, a canards plus delta wing configuration. It was very reminiscent of Sweden's JAS-39 Gripen, but the real story was completely different. Chengdu Aircraft Corporation once built an aircraft called J9 in the late 70s to replace the aging J7 aircraft, but it was cut due to production costs. It also had the same configuration, canards plus delta wings. It seemed like that the bones of the dead J9 aircraft found another life. And the hero jet has a hero engineer. Leading the charge was Song Wenkong, who little did he know that he would be a legend in the Chinese aviation history. But the project stalled. Funding had dried up, political parties had changed, and their focus was changed as well. And shockingly, in 1991, the Gulf War also started. It almost seemed like China's J-7 and J-8 aircraft seemed hopeless against the American F-16s and F-15s dominating the Iraqi skies. To bridge the gap, China bought Russian-made Su-27 aircraft, but soon enough they also got the license to build them at home. And Shenyang, the other important aircraft corporation, was behind this project. Meanwhile, with a renewed political capital, the development of the J10 began once again. Engineers spent countless nights to build a full-scale mock-up of the J10. But there was only one problem, the WS-10 Miracle engine. It was unreliable, underpowered, and years behind schedule. So the team had to switch towards the Russian AL-31FN, yes, the same one used in the Su-27 aircrafts. And the best part for that engine was that it will be interchangeable for the J-11 aircraft. For this to work, engineers needed to alter internal systems. The aircraft needed a stronger airframe and new airflow inlets, which shockingly the engineers did pretty quickly. March 23, 1998. After nearly 2 decades of trials and redesigns, the prototype takes off the runway in Susheng. The aircraft cuts through the Chinese skies and lands successfully. This moment isn't just a test flight, it's a milestone in the Chinese calendar because for the first time they had built their own aircraft, a 4th-generation aircraft too. The aircraft entered service in 2004 and became operational in 2006. Pretty quickly, ain't it? With factories going to churn out over 150 units of this aircraft. Then these aircraft would go on to form the backbone of the single-engine Chinese aircraft fleet. They were fast and they were agile, but the only problem, they were not packed with modern avionics, good radars, and not even good weapons. The J-10 was a mixed bag. It was missing ground precision strike missiles and bombs. It didn't have beyond visual range missiles too. But when China as a country started developing rapidly in the 21st century, the development of military hardware followed closely. Before the thunder came the whisper. And from the inside, China knew that this aircraft wasn't enough to impress the world. The fighter didn't shout the revolution rules, but rather defined what a Chinese jet could be. Unveiled in 2008 and entering service only 5 years later, the J10B was a remarkable milestone in the Chinese calendar once again. It was the bridge between old school design and modern aerospace industries. At first glance, the changes look modest until you look closer. The most noticeable change was the air inlet. It was changed from a square into this new modern design, which reduced radar cross section, and the best part, it was a very advanced supersonic inlet too. The inlet provided the aircraft with improved airflow, simpler frame, and reduced radar cross section. This was a clear sign that the Chinese aerodynamics were catching up to the West. And at front, they reshaped the radar dome and put an ASAR radar in there, likely the KLJ-3A ASAR radar. And it was a huge leap. Trust me, it was a huge leap from the mechanically stand radar of the J10A. It gave the jet better targeting for multiple targets and sharper eyes in the air. The aircraft may look old school, but it offered a glass cockpit and simplified systems for the pilot. The J-10B also integrated modern Chinese weapons like the PL-12 Beyond Visual Range missile, and it could also be equipped for precision strike missions. With laser-guided munition and satellite-guided bombs, it became a key platform for the Chinese Air Force. For the first time, the J-10 wasn't just a fighter, it was a multi-role machine. While the engine was still the same AL-31FN from Russia, the J-10B was designed with the WS-10 in mind. But here's the twist, only a few were produced. The reason was that you can say it was a stepping stone for the even better next generation 4.5 Gen J-10C. So the Chinese Air Force can figure out the bugs in their air intakes, radar, and cockpit glitches. And the plan was to take out the Saga Russian Su-27 engines and replace them with WS-10 engines. The J-10C is the latest and the greatest from the J-10 family. It was able to fire the PL-10, the PL-15 as well. The PL-10 is comparable to the American AIM-9X, and the Americans woke up one day realizing that the Chinese had developed the PL-15 missile, which was better than their AIM-120D and boasting a range up to 250 kilometers. The PL-12 also was a beyond visual range missile, which was even better than the SD-10 and was comparable to the AMRAAM AIM-120C. Its first flight was in 2013, and it took place in the Chinese Air Force in 2016, so it's a pretty new aircraft, you can say. The Chinese also finally made a great ASA radar called the KLJ-10A fitted in the J-10C. You know, at the same time, Chinese also started implementing different ASA radars for their different platforms like the J-11D, the J-15, and the J-16. Besides that, the PL-15 had comparable performance to the French Meteor missile. The PL-15 is an active radar-guided missile with the ASA Seeker radar and data link mid-course correction. It is one of the most lethal weapons in modern history. The aircraft also had different targeting pods and night strike capability, making it lethal. And the most shocking part, the Chinese said, in theory at least, it could take any opponent, any current aircraft in the world right now. But then, what is the catch? Why did no one want this jet if it was this good? I'll only say one word, and that's the engine. Even though the WS-10 was under development, the earlier J-10Cs flew with the Su-27 Russian engine, and when it came to exporting, the Russians said no. If you give it to anyone, they could reverse engineer our engine, and we don't want you exporting the aircraft with our engine. The new WS-10B was developed, and finally the aircraft started exporting. The only problem was these engines, even though matched thrust with their Russian competitors, they had a very poor service life in the earlier models. Now, with these engine statistics over, the Pakistani Air Force, a traditional buyer of Chinese aircraft, bought this aircraft. Now, it is said that the aircraft took on the Su-35 in an exercise and won against it. It is also said that it took the JAS-39 Gripen and won against it too. Now, here's the twist. After the Pahalgam terrorist attack in India, escalation started, clashes along line of control took place, and the largest air battle in history of this modern combat took place. Pakistan claims to have downed 5 jets. At least four debris and remains have been found. PL-15s have also been found, which is a remarkable milestone. This is proof that China does not lag behind against the Western technology.